specifically with Guess Again, you're going to get, I think, what I'm trying to develop as my style, which is a bold, protagonist that you can root for, um, a really intriguing villain that you can't stop. You're kind of morbidly curious about. And then, if I did it correctly, a twist at the end that should have you ripping back through the pages to see how you missed it. That's what I've tried to do with Guess Again specifically. It's been described, the book's been described as The Silence of the Lambs meets Cruel Summer. And I tried to write this one so that it's a mystery wrapped in a psychological thriller, but I tried to write it so that each chapter contains clues for the reader to discover along with Ethan Hall so that they can try to figure out the final twist before they get to the last chapter. And early reviews have been great. Either way, I think it's a winner. If you figure out the final twist, um, I built up a lot of anticipation and you had to get to the end to figure it out to see if you were correct. If you didn't figure it out, yeah, it shocks you. And that's what I've tried to do with a lot of my stories. And I think Guess Again stays in that same genre. So the story's about Ethan Hall. So he's today an ER doctor, but he used to be this renegade detective with the Department of Criminal Investigation in Wisconsin. And he quit 10 years ago because the detective work was killing him, and he knew he had to get out of law enforcement. So he left for greener pastures. And he goes to medical school, goes through residency, and now 10 years later, he's 2 years into his new profession as an emergency room physician, and he's happy. But on the 10th anniversary of one of Wisconsin's most notorious missing persons cases, he gets summoned out of the ER by his old uh, detective partner, uh, and he gets asked to reinvestigate this 10-year-old cold case. And Ethan only agrees to do it because his partner is dying, and it's like his dying request. So Ethan reluctantly starts investigating, and then he finds help from the least likely of sources, which is an inmate at a maximum security prison who happens to be the serial killer who killed his father. The villain in Guess Again is named Francis Bernard, and he was 100% inspired by Hannibal Lecter. Um, what started me down this road was when I'm looking at new ideas for a new manuscript, I start reading headlines. I start reading true crime headlines, and lately in the news in the last couple of years has been this phenomenon of a medical condition called hybristophilia, which is where an individual becomes infatuated with or thinks they're in love with a criminal or someone who is dangerous or has committed a criminal act. And examples of this would be, all the not only women, but all the men and women who are sort of infatuated with Scott Peterson from Scott and Lacey Peterson when he killed his pregnant wife. This was years ago in the 90s. I think that's what Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl was loosely based on. But Scott Peterson's had like marriage proposals and women that just want to come and visit him in prison. And in really recent news, Luigi Mangione has something similar to this, where he's developed this huge following of people that are kind of infatuated with his story. And of course, he's good looking, and so there's this intriguing aspect there that I wanted to learn more about. And I took that idea of hybristophilia, someone being infatuated with a criminal, and then like I said, I was inspired. I had just read Thomas Harris's book, The Silence of the Lambs. I had reread it recently, and I kind of had Hannibal Lecter in mind, and then I combined that idea with this condition of hybristophilia, and that helped create this character of Francis Bernard, who is able to manipulate to some extent our main character, Ethan Hall, even though he's in a maximum security prison in Boscobel, Wisconsin. Yeah, I think small town mysteries all have a little similarity to it in that in this particular case, one of the town's um, superstars disappeared. Kelly Jones was a high school volleyball superstar, and they're in this little town. High school volleyball was what everyone followed. They won state, they won the state championship. She led them to the state championship. She was the it girl of the town, pretty, charming. She had everything going for her. And it's alluded to that she had fans. She had people who maybe were infatuated with her, and then she disappears. And so immediately, from that premise, there's a lot of suspects, and there's a lot of it's such a close-knit community that there's also a lot of people that are demanding answers. And so when 10 years pass and there's still no answers in this small town, that's what the town has become known for. It's the town where Kelly Jones disappeared from. And still 10 years later, there's no answers. So that's always an intriguing for me when I read something like that or a small town mystery from a different author. I'm always intrigued by that because within this small cast of characters that makes up this town, uh, when I'm reading a book, I know that one of these characters has to be involved with the crime. And so then when I write that sort of story, I keep that in mind because I know I'm because I'm a fan of that myself. When I as a reader, that's what I expect out of a small town mystery. And so I wanted to try to deliver that in Guess Again, and I think it works well.